So, if my technology is now working correctly, this should be live. If anyone can give me a comment and let me know, that would be most helpful. So, let's have a look. If anyone can give me a comment and let me know, that would be most helpful. So I'm assuming all is well. So let's have a look. If anyone could just leave a comment. Yep. Aline, my sound. If anyone can give me a comment and let me know, so that's good. That would be most helpful. So I'm assuming all is well. Let's have a look. So hello and welcome. And I am really glad to be here. Finally, I have had the Aline, my nightmare in trying to get if anyone can give me a comment and let me know, that would be most helpful. So I'm assuming all is well. And we're in the process of sorting out a separate so hello and welcome. So everybody who's in, and I am really glad to be here. Finally, I have comment. Aline, my nightmare in trying to get if anyone can give me a comment and let me know, that would be most helpful. So I'm assuming all is well, and we're in the process of sorting out a separate so hello and welcome. So everybody who's in, and I am really glad to be here. Finally, I have comment. Aline, my nightmare in trying to if anyone can give me a comment and let me know, that would be most helpful. So I'm assuming all is well, and we're in the process of sorting out a separate so hello and welcome. So everybody who's in, and I am really glad to be here. Finally, I have comment. Aline, my nightmare in trying to if anyone can give me a comment and let me know, that would be most helpful. So I'm assuming all is well, and we're in the process of sorting out a separate so hello and welcome. So everybody who's in, and I am really glad to be here. Finally, I have comment. Aline, my nightmare in trying to if anyone can give me a comment and let me know, that would be most helpful. So I'm assuming all is well, and we're in the process of sorting out a separate so hello and welcome. So everybody who's in, and I am really glad to be here. Finally, I have comment. Aline, my nightmare in trying to if anyone can give me a comment and let me know, that would be most helpful. So I'm assuming all is well, and we're in the process of sorting out a separate so hello and welcome. So everybody who's in, and I am really glad to be here. Finally, I have comment. Aline, my nightmare in trying to if anyone can give me a comment and let me know, that would be most helpful. So I'm assuming all is well, and we're in the process of sorting out a separate so hello and welcome. So everybody who's in, and I am really glad to be here. Finally, I have comment. Aline, my nightmare in trying to if anyone can give me a comment and let me know, that would be most helpful. So I'm assuming all is well, and we're in the process of sorting out a separate so hello and welcome. So everybody who's in, and I am really glad to be here. Finally, I have comment. Let me close this a second. Can you hear me now better? What a nightmare. So you'll have to let me know if you can hear me all right now. The technology, honestly. All right, let's see. Now, in theory, that should be all right. Is that all right, Ryan? Can you hear me okay? Right, hold on a second. I'm going to close YouTube. I'm using streaming software, you see, and I had this problem last time. So I have closed all my YouTube tabs. Let me know if you can hear me all right now. But I've still got my streaming software running, so in theory, it should be working okay. I don't want to continue if we're having technological problems. Aline saying that is perfect. Can we have a second opinion and a third opinion and let me know? Because this is honestly technology. Like I say, it's the most amazing, groundbreaking, revolutionary thing in the world until it doesn't work, and then it's just a proper headache. So if a few people could let me know that everything's all right, I can continue. All right, I'm growing in confidence. That's 2 people saying that it's all right. So I don't know how much of what I've just said anybody heard. Ryan, thank you very much. So what I was saying was there's a trading system, a full trading system called the market maker method. And very, very simply, I mean, I do believe it ties in with Elliott waves. I'm not an Elliott wave specialist whatsoever. I've never studied it. I know that there's a lot to it, and basically there's lots of ABC corrections, and there's different waves, and then if there's certain requirements that must be met for each wave, otherwise then the wave gets invalidated and then it turns into something else. But the market maker method basically goes like this. It has a 3-level rise, and then it usually finishes with some sort of M formation, and then it can be a 3-level drop like that, and then there can be a W formation. Now what can happen, this can happen over the course of a month, over the course of weeks, over the course of 4 hours. You know, it's in the charts here, there and everywhere. But when we're talking specifically about trading the week, you get false move week beginning. So Sunday to Monday, the market makers aren't on shift over the weekend. They come back on shift Sunday to Monday. There's conspiracy theories. I don't know how true it is. I don't need to know. All I need to know is the method is quite successful. But the theory is that there's different market makers that know each other and work together from different continents, Asia, US, London, and they're on the phone to each other saying, right, we've got a lot of liquidity at this level, so if you push it here, then we can dump it here. And basically the markets are moved by market makers, not continuously, but at pivotal levels. So if there's it's like Bitcoin right now. Bitcoin right now is at resistance. As we've already highlighted, it's at an old range. It's at the old range low. So it was in this range here for quite a long time. It's currently at the old range low. Now, it wouldn't surprise me if we got a little dip down before a pump up to liquidate shorts before then moving down for a proper retrace, or vice versa. It could move up a little bit, then have a dump, and then rally to the upside. The point is understanding market maker shenanigans. We can kind of watch out for these things, and I've actually got a template especially for it where I watch open interest on a Sunday. So watching open interest on a Sunday, open interest, for people who don't know, shows how many live trades are open. So it's how much interest there is open, so how many trades are open, and you can clearly see, I'll get it up now. So all you need to do to get the indicator is come onto here, indicators, and it's a free indicator for TradingView. Now the only thing is, so here it is at the bottom, it only works for perpetual futures because it's strictly futures trades. So there's something different for spot positions. So what I would do, I'll come to a perpetual futures chart, and then it will show me how much open interest there is. So there we can see there at the bottom. So that shows that there was a lot of positions open around here, and then all of a sudden a lot of positions got closed. So open interest is actually quite low in comparison to recent history. So just out of curiosity, I'm going to see what that correlated with, because it'll probably correlate with a major high or a major low, a major dump or a major pump. So yeah, you can see there. So that's a classic example. So open interest, if you have a look here at the bottom, there's a red candle there. All of this, the open interest was grinding to the upside, which means more and more traders were opening positions. And look what price was doing. Price was grinding up, grinding up, grinding up, grinding up to all-time highs. So there'll have been more and more people opening longs, opening longs, opening longs, and then price dumped. And what happened was, in that move there, the open interest declined, which shows a lot of positions were closed. Basically, another way of putting that is, people were liquidated. So people who were long in here, long in here, long in here, their stop losses were all wiped out by this move, and that liquidated their positions, which is shown and demonstrated in open interest, in the decline in open interest. So with the market maker method, it is typical when market makers come back after the weekend, it is typical for them to make a false move to liquidate positions. So if you imagine, let me just show you, we have the weekend range. So we get the weekend trap. So usually there's a move on a Friday to induce people into a position, and then it'll just range for the weekend. And those traders who've entered trades over the weekend, they'll have either entered longs or they'll have entered shorts. And when the market makers come back on shift, they'll look at it and think, right, there's more liquidity to the downside than there is to the upside. So we'll go down, take out that liquidity, stop everyone out from the weekend that are trapped, you know, from the weekend trap, and then we'll continue moving up. So quite often you see a false move on a Sunday. So if I come here to Friday, so this here, I can put a box around that. This here is the weekend range. That there. That is the weekend range. Price has been moving to the side all weekend. So what's quite typical on a weekend is for, on a Sunday even, for price to either later on a Sunday evening, and it can happen anytime from in an hour or two, right through till tomorrow, price comes, liquidates wherever the longs stop losses are, which will be around here and there. It can come and liquidate them. That can be the false move. On open interest, you would see open interest drop, a red candle on open interest, and that's when you know that it's the false move. So I'm going to stretch that out. So any move that happens later on a Sunday, and if it doesn't happen later on a Sunday, I am still cautious on the Monday. You'll hear me say all the time, I'm waiting for the Monday range to form. Any move that creates a big red candle or a significant drop in open interest can be considered to be the false move, and quite often it can be counter traded. So if there's a false move to the downside like that, which closes quite a lot of positions and open interest takes a decline, you can quite often have high degrees of confidence in taking long positions. So that's just for educational purposes, really. So I'm always apprehensive on a Sunday, and I do like to map out the Sunday, the weekend range, and I like to watch the open interest, because if there's the odd Sunday where there's nothing really notable, and then like I said, I'll be cautious on the Monday too. But that weekend range is something worth watching, because the false move, more than likely, I mean, Bitcoin looks like it's kind of rolling over a little bit, but we'll see what happens. But there's your weekend range. So I won't get into the market maker method because I can get sidetracked and go on tangents. Hopefully moving forward we'll be able to do lots more stuff on the market maker method. But it does play out quite often, and it's a really good system. And it just uses a few moving averages. You can trade it on the 15-minute time frame. You're watching out for 3 level rises, 3 level drops, and then what they call the boardroom, where it goes sideways and has like a little retracement. So what we'll do is we'll open the Bitcoin chart, and on a Sunday, after a week of trading activity, what I like to do is look at it on a weekly time frame and see what does this week's candle look like. Because quite often, price will fill imbalances in the chart. So what is an imbalance? An imbalance is where you have a big candle like that, where it and price hasn't come back to fill that candle. So if you get a big candle, and you can see it quite well here, big green candle, big green candle, big imbalances in the chart. Price usually comes back to fill those candles at some point, and you can see it pretty much did to the absolute cent. It just got front ran by, what was that? It got front ran by about $600 because people were bullish. Loads of people were bidding in this area because they were expecting this move. So, but you can see that imbalance was filled, that imbalance was filled, that imbalance was filled. And then same again here with this big red candle. That's a big imbalance in the chart. Price has come, found resistance at probably what is more than likely around 50% of this candle. 50% levels are significant as well. People who are interested, look into a trader called WD Gann. In actual fact, if you look on your trading view, he's got lots of his own tools that have been created from the way he traded. Gann box, Gann square fixed, Gann square, and Gann fan. The Gann fan sounds like Gangnam style, Gang fan. But he was an exceptional trader in the earlier 20th century, and he swore by the 50% level. So, and the 50% level on the Fibonacci tool, is significant, which is why, it's respected by a lot of traders. So you can see it did find resistance, and you can just see there. I'll have to open it up around the 50% level. If I bring that down, yeah. So around this area, it found resistance. When it breaks above it, that's bullish. So what Gann did, he didn't buy low and sell high. He bought high and sold higher because he believed in buying into strength. And there's a lot to be said for buying into strength, particularly with spot positions. So a lot of the stuff we've done within Sniper Squad has been around futures trading, leverage trading, trading on smaller time frames. However, when it comes to spot trading, it's a lot easier. It's a lot easier with spot trading. It's easier to read the market structure. It's less sensitive. You're doing it on a higher time frame, and you definitely want to be reallocating funds into strength, particularly at this time of the market cycle when everything bleeds like it has during this whole move. We all know spot positions, some people have lost 90%, if not more, if they were in meme coins. So when it comes to, you want to see what bounces back the fastest, what is showing strength faster than everything else. And what we have seen, Solana's had a nice bounce, but one that stands out head and shoulders above everything else is, look at Sui. Sui's got an absolute monumental bullish engulfing candle from this break of trend. It just went parabolic. That's a 1 week candle, and for 1 week, that 68% move, and probably more than that, 70% move. That is a nice move, but it's a bullish engulfing candle which is engulfed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 previous weeks. So 3 months worth of downside just wiped out and recouped in 1 week by Sui. That is true strength. So, and then if we have a look at other charts, you know, you start to see how Sui's strength is very impressive compared to many others. So it's always a good indication if the tides are turning in the crypto markets and things have gone from a bearish period, and if we have a if we are going to have a right translated cycle, meaning the best is yet to come this year, then we want to be positioning ourselves with spot positions into strength. I wouldn't be buying Sui here. This would be after a candle like that. Remember what I said about imbalances. You know, that's a huge imbalance, and I would expect some form of retracement. And this is what I promote in Sniper Squad: buying red and selling green, buying low, selling high, buying on retracements, getting in positions on retracements, and taking profits when things go to the upside. But that is just to show the strength that Sui has shown, and I think Tau as well has shown good strength. You can see it's claimed 1 level, 2 levels, and it's well, not rejecting, but it's at resistance, and there's a lot of altcoins that are at resistance. So this is a little shortlist which I've posted in Sniper Squad this week for levels that I was looking at, because what I'm going to be looking at doing, I've been out of the trading game for a few weeks due to renovation catastrophes. Not just technological catastrophes, I've had renovation catastrophes as well to deal with, so it's all been going on. And I went and charted things on a daily time frame, and I posted these in Sniper Squad. So I will touch on a few of these, as well as the chart requests that we've got. But looking at Bitcoin's weekly candle, although that is an extremely bullish candle, I mean, it is. I always look on the longer time frame and think, right, what would be the most probabilistic thing to happen after a candle like this? And usually, if this was a 5, 10 minute, 15-minute chart, you know, you would expect some kind of retracement down to here, you know, down to around here, a significant fib level, before support comes in, the bull step back in, and then it can go to maybe retest higher levels. Currently at a significant order block, significant resistance. This is the old range low, as you can see. So, and this is also, you see this candle here. This is the major order block here, where price had an expansive move from this level that creates significant resistance moving forward. So you can do that on any time frame. I could put it on a 4-hour time frame. If you find, when you look to the left of the charts, find, and we've got a classic example here, find a cluster of orders where there's been an expansive move from that cluster, and it works with longs and shorts. You can have a look for order blocks on any time frame, and you can trade them. So you can see here, there's a little cluster of candles before there was an expansive move away. That leaves unfulfilled orders at this little cluster. And price came, wicked down, touched this unmitigated order block before having an expansive move to the upside. Same again here. You can see there's a cluster of candles, little expansive move away, and price came back down, retested this. There's unfulfilled buy orders there, basically orders that people had placed to buy Bitcoin in here, that never got a chance to be filled because price moved to the upside before their orders got filled. Price often comes down, grabs those orders before moving back up. Again, you know, there's an example. Price came down, people placed buy orders, price moved away before these buy orders got filled. Price came back afterwards, grabbed those orders, and then took off. And you can see it again and again and again and again on the charts. You know, there was a cluster of orders here, and so on and so forth. So it's always worth looking for them. It's always worth looking for them, and you can look for them on any time frame, on any crypto. on any asset, regardless of whether it's crypto, commodities, you know, TradFi, whatever. So bringing it to today, let me just clean this up a little bit. I mean, the levels that I posted in Sniper Squad earlier this week, for me, are still valid. The question is, really, is when Bitcoin's consolidating under old resistance like this, I mean, you've got to think, it's gone from 73k, 74k to 95k. And the only time it's had any sort of proper consolidation, really, was here. And it hasn't really made it hasn't had a significant retracement. It's just gone up. We've got an imbalance in the chart here on a 4-hour time frame. We've also got one here, which are why these are significant levels. I did post my shorter term bull zones were the 382 here and the 618. Now I like the 618 here because that would fill that imbalance. And as we all know, the 618 is a significant level, and that's around 88k, which would also be, let me just hide all this. It would also be 88k would be a retest of this here. So Bitcoin and any asset really usually like to stair step. So what I mean by that, and this is just for educational purposes, it'll make a cluster, come, make a high, and come back down and retest where it's just gone from before going to higher levels. And if it comes here, I would be expecting it to retest this, because you want to see it make that. This is a healthy structure. If it retests previous resistance as support, that is a healthy uptrend. If you get something that just goes up, that is very unhealthy. There's no support being created, and you can expect it to come down just as fast as it's gone up. So 88k I do like as a significant level. I will do some the chart requests. I would also like to do some to see if there's any scalps available, which is why I had my super stochastic strategy up. There's loads I would like to tell everyone and teach everyone about the super stochastic strategy in identifying bull flags and stuff like that. But we'll have to see how we get on for time, because unfortunately, due to technological problems, I am not going to be able to get through everything that I wanted to get through. So, open interest. For anyone who's interested, put open interest on your chart. You will need to find a perpetual futures Bitcoin chart. To do that, you just come onto your chart here, type BTC USDT.P. That will bring up all the perpetual futures charts. For Bitcoin, you just pick any one of them. I'm going to pick Bybit, and then I will open that chart up. Is that the Bybit one? No. Let's have a look. I think I've clicked on the wrong one there. So find a BTC USDT P chart, and just choose one of these, which XBT USDT. That's on BitMEX, and that will show you your. It will show you your open interest at the bottom. So it's always worth keeping an eye on that on a Sunday. Don't really like trading or entering proper positions, which I would hold for a day or two on a Sunday. I liked the market makers to kind of show their hand before positioning myself. But that being said, as I already said in Sniper Squad, I will be waiting for a significant sort of retracement where stochastic RSIs can reset. And so this, let's have a look at this. So this is the regular stochastic RSI. And I would like to see, you can see here on the daily, I mean, that for me, it can stay at the top for quite a long time, but I would like to see quite a few, you know, the 8 hour is almost reset, the 12 hour is starting to come down. I would like to see one of these major levels, you know, hit by Bitcoin in the coming days, even if it takes a week or two. If it breaks above 95, you know, then I would reassess, and possibly that might be a trigger to 100k, because the thing is, understanding like an ECG of the market, when you've got, let me try and find a clean chart. Let's have a look. One that I won't have used. Let's see. So when you've got a significant resistance level like this, so that's a significant level, and you've got a lot of people that are shorting, people that are selling, people that are taking profits at this level, price can come up and reject very, very fast, as I'm sure everyone's already seen before many times with different altcoins and Bitcoin. But when it keeps coming up, if you imagine it like this, a block of sell orders, yeah? If you imagine, and that could probably put lower down, a block of sell orders, every time price comes into it, it rejects, because the sellers, the buyers, there's only so many people that are buying at one time. So people are buying, people are buying, people are buying, hits the sell orders, the sellers overwhelm and overpower the lack of buyers, so price goes down. But then buyers step into the market, come back up, and they're taking another chunk out of this block of sellers, and price comes down, it's wicked back into it. So the more times it wicks into it, the more of that, it's like the nibbling at the sell orders, and the sell orders get less and less and less and less until there is none left, and then the bulls can just totally overpower the sellers, and that's when you can see a short squeeze, because there's going to be a lot of people shorting in this area. My personal trading style is I wouldn't be entering longs here. I wouldn't enter longs at resistance. I would wait for it to convincingly break above and then pull back and retest. I would always long on retests. I would much prefer to be buying and building significant long positions on that level there, and even potentially around this level here. And then I'd also pull in the fib levels from the start of that expansive move from here to the top, and you can see that level there correlates with the 382 and the 618, and you start to build a bit of a picture as to where you want to see Bitcoin retrace to. So we'll see what happens in the coming days for swing positions. This is whether Bitcoin breaks to the upside and then pulls back onto 95, or if it comes down to 91 and a half K, and starts to look like it's getting some support, and if the stochastics on the 12-hour reset during that time as well, then that might be a very good indication that it's a good time to start building positions. I did mention the other day martingale strategy, where if Bitcoin does pull back down to these levels, what we have to anticipate is Bitcoin could go like this and then create a lower high and then come down to here and create a little lower high again before consolidating. By then there might be a trend line in here, and then it could break out to the upside and start its uptrend again. We don't know whether it's going to find support here or find it there. So with the martingale strategy, what you do, you dollar cost average into positions basically. So to accommodate for to give you a bigger margin for error, more room to be successful within a trade, you would you'd be like, right, if Bitcoin comes to this level, I'm going to start nibbling into some altcoin spot positions, for instance, or very low leverage swing positions. If your assumption is that Bitcoin is bullish, and then you would then plan to double that position should Bitcoin come to this level. And then you might have a plan where you're like, you will add 3 parts to the position to double the position again if it comes around this level. And then you would have an invalidation where it's like, you know what, I'm just completely wrong. You know, Bitcoin's done something completely different to what I assumed it would do, and then you would reassess. So this was basically the plan with this shortlist that I posted in Sniper Squad this week. It was, these are the sort of trades I'm looking at. I charted everything on a higher time frame. You can see that Polkadot is in this significant range, which it spent a lot of time in. It deviated underneath, and now it's in the process of potentially reclaiming it. And I did say to you, we'd reassess this, but what I would be looking at doing will be building some positions and trying to get some positions built in on what I believe is going to be the next higher low for Bitcoin. So if we go back to Bitcoin, I believe we were in, well, this isn't what I believe, but we were in a downtrend, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low. Now we've made a significantly higher high. So if this is going to be a confirmed uptrend, what we need to see in a confirmed uptrend is we need to see it go from lower lows to lower highs to lower lows. Then we see the change of character where it makes its first higher high. That does not constitute we are now bullish. What it does mean is Bitcoin has made its first move to potentially switching from a downtrend to an uptrend. It doesn't mean it has. It doesn't mean it's in an uptrend now. What we now need to see is its first higher low. The confirmation of the uptrend will be when it goes to make its second, when it breaks this high. And you have people who trade different styles. Some people are really conservative. Some people are more aggressive. I have a system where it's more aggressive. It's more aggressive in the sense of I would, if I hadn't have been renovating my house, I would have been tracking that downtrend, and I would have been looking at potentially, well, I posted it in Sniper Squad about a month ago, around $72,000, $73,000. I would have been looking to build some positions there. And then you're in then, and then if it moves to the upside, brilliant, you're in, you can compound into your trade, you can start building a really healthy position, and then we would have been in, but I wasn't available during that time. So now the next aggressive move you can do is to get in on the next higher low, which is what I'm planning on doing. So where we're at right now, just to recap, Bitcoin's done its little downtrend, lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, lower lows. It's made its first higher high. So it's made its first higher high. As you can see, there's the higher high. You have to excuse all these squiggles. I hope everyone can see that and understands the concept regardless of all the TA that's already on the chart. But it's made its first higher high, and where I want to be building significant positions will either be on its next higher low, whether that be there or whether it be here. I want to be building positions on the next higher low. Like I say, some people, they're aggressive, they'll trade on the breakout. I prefer to build on the retest. For reasons, actually, I can show you on Ethereum, because I posted a trade in Sniper Squad. So this is what I want to see, blah, blah, blah. I said it's coming into the 200 period moving average on the daily. And I said what I would want to see is it break above the 200 period moving average and then retest it successfully. So I'll show you now. So there's, I don't know why it's yellow. That's not my usual colour for the 200. Yes, so that's actually the 50 period moving average. Oh, it's because we're on the 4 hourly. So if I come onto the daily, yeah, so that's the 50 period moving average here, and you can see how I said that I would want to see it break above the 50 and then retest it successfully. And currently, it looks like it's losing. You know, the retest does not look successful at this point. So I always prefer to wait for the retest. Otherwise, what you've got is a fake out. So we'll see what happens. But Ethereum, there's looking like it's broke a trend to the downside. But like I say, I take it from with a pinch of salt on a Sunday. And I prefer to trade on confirmation of either the false move already happened or after the Monday range is formed. So, looking just really quickly again at the Bitcoin candle, what I can see is the most likely probabilistic course of action for the week to come is I would expect some of this candle to get refilled. I would expect whether or not that there's a candle that comes down, you know, by next week, and then gets bought up, and there's a wick, and you know we've end up with a bullish candle next week. Remains to be seen, or whether or not it just drifts down and to the side a little bit. But I would expect some sort of retracement here, being the highest probability. Remember, we're only ever playing probabilities, so the most probabilistic, highly probabilistic path for Bitcoin from here, based on the fact it's a significant resistance, a major order block, and at its old range low, would be that there is some sort of imbalance fill, whether or not it comes down to here, 88k, like I said before, which would be a retest of this moving average and a retest of this old resistance. That would be perfect. Or whether it just comes down here to these old wick lows remains to be seen. But the only way that this would be invalidated is if Bitcoin breaks through, potentially comes to the old 50% of the range, which would be around here, 98 to 100k, and then would get in on a pullback for swing positions. So moving forward for the week ahead, I will be watching, because it could be a massive week for Bitcoin. Right, so to bring it to today, so I've covered why I will not be building swing positions, what I will be waiting for, and I tell you what, there's another positive. We've got the 20 period and the 50 period here on the daily on Bitcoin. And remember what I said in Sniper Squad. What you want to see for ultimate bullish conditions, if things are going to get bullish now and the tide is turning, that there is the order you want to see those moving averages. Look, the white above the yellow, above the orange, above the red. In that order, 20 above the 50, above the 100, above the 200. And that is when you're in bullish conditions. If the tides are turning and we're having a right translated cycle, like I said in Sniper Squad, we are early, because look, the 20 is only just moving above the 50. So the 20 is only just moving above the 50. So look, if that's if we're going to have serious bullishness moving forward, and this is a right translated cycle, where did the 20 last cross the 50? This was that situation, look. That's where the 20 last crossed the 50. That was September 24. That was before the bullish last quarter that we had. That was before Bitcoin rallied from 60k to 109k. So that is, if we're experiencing a shift in the markets now and things are going to be bullish for the rest of the year, or the best is yet to come for the rest of the year, this is where we're at. Doesn't mean to say that's what we can expect. You know, another 70% move on Bitcoin. I'm just saying that's what happened the last time the moving averages were in the order that they're in now. The 20s just moving above the 50. They were below the 100 and below the 200. So for me, the moving averages are a good indication of when things are bullish and when they're not. The 50 period moving average is significant in the bull market, because usually when things are bullish, you can see it's usually when it loses the 50 and can't get above it. The 50 there is the yellow. When it loses the 50 and can't get above it, that's when it usually takes several months before bullishness returns. So you can clearly see there's the downtrend, popped to the upside. Now I'd like to see the retest. So that's what I'm waiting for swing positions. Everyone will be updated in Sniper Squad on the live Zoom sessions. We'll be doing this live together on the live Zoom sessions. So if you haven't paid for the monthly live Zoom sessions, we'll be doing 2 or 3 of them a week. My Zoom account will be sorted by tomorrow. So we'll all be doing that together. So make sure you get involved on that. So let's look at a shorter time frame. So if I'm expecting a pullback, where can we expect to get in on some of these? We can see on quite a lot of charts, a lot of things are showing, a lot of tokens are showing similar things, which is they've made a higher high. So you can see here Polkadot has made a higher high. It's broke that high, and now it's coming down to form its hopefully higher low. So this would be the area that I would be interested in building a position. Doesn't mean when it comes to this level I'm blindly going to enter positions. I will always be watching Bitcoin. Always. I had a message off a Sniper Squad member saying, it seems like altcoins follow Bitcoin. Is there a relation? Yes, there absolutely is. I covered it on my last YouTube live, but there absolutely is. We should always be watching Bitcoin. However, things don't always follow Bitcoin. Sometimes things show exceptional relative strength, like SUI. Look at SUI's move. And then other tokens might show weak relative strength. And Ethereum is a classic example of that. Because if this was the Bitcoin chart, Bitcoin is here. Bitcoin is here. It's broke. It's broke to the upside a lot more than Ethereum. And if you look at the SUI chart, SUI's just smashed through another level. So looking for relative strength and relative weakness is really important when we're picking and choosing our trades. To do that, we can look at the liquidity heat map. We can see, we can look at CoinGlass. We can have a look at the RSI heat map. If you ever look down the side here, you'll find the RSI heat map. I don't want to get sidetracked too much because I'd like to get to some proper TA. But you can find plenty of information there. Also, if you have a look for banter bubbles, you go on banter bubbles. This gives you a real-time snapshot. You can change the time frame. So we can see here in the last hour, Pengu has outperformed the rest of the market. So that's showing exceptional relative strength. If we come back to our trading view chart and I just type in here, Pengu, we'll have a look at the chart. And you can see there's the relative strength demonstrated in price. There could actually be a trade here. Snipers and our viewers, there could be a trade. Because when something pumps like that, it's coming into significant resistance. Remember, we look to the left, we look at where it's rejected from before. In actual fact, with significant strength like that, if you look where it's rejected from there, rejected from there, rejected from there, but more importantly, bounced from there, bounced from there, bounced from there, that is the significant level. If I was looking at that before this move, I would have thought once it breaks through this green box, which also correlates with this 100 period moving average on the daily, that is when I would be interested in taking a long. Because it's broke into the new trading range, It's broke through resistance. It's now brought into play these upper levels. So a pullback on Pengu into this level here may be a good longing opportunity. I'm not saying to do that, but you know, whenever this move finishes, if it's over now, you know, that does correlate with the 382. If it breaks back under it, you know, then it might just take a bit more time to break through it, and it might need to consolidate a little bit. However, if we were short-term scalping, we'd be looking to the left of the chart, and we'd see after that green box, this green box is the next significant level. Now, I like to scalp using the super stochastic strategy, which I'll go on now, and I'll get the Pengu chart up just to see what's happening with Pengu. So what exchange was that? Bybit Spot. Bybit Spot. So you see, I like this super stochastic strategy because it really sort of shows me the stochastic RSI on various time frames, and it shows, it's like an ECG of the market. It shows when something's changing. If I see divergences forming, which you can see on Pengu at the moment, you can see it's made a higher high. Yet on the stochastic, it looks like it could potentially be in the process of making a lower high on the stochastics there. And then I'll come down. If I was scalping, what I would want is confluence of all of these across multiple time frames. So 15 minutes. You can see that it's coming and it's almost topped out on the 15 minutes. Whereas on the lower stochastic here, it looks like it's forming a lower high. So this move could potentially be running out of steam, but shorting something so bullish is like stepping in front of a moving train. So it's not exactly what you would want to be doing. Also, what I would do if there's something that's rallied like that, I would check some news. You know, I would go on Twitter, type in Pengu. I think, why has this rallied so strong? The good thing about banter bubbles is you can click on it and you can see people are chatting about it. So you can get your news, you can get what people are saying, and you can have a look and you can see someone's put here, does anyone know why Pengu's dropping? It's broken through all resistances. You've been shorting it for a week now, it's paying big. So these are probably old posts, but yeah, banter bubbles is a good one to test and see relative strength. So if you don't use this, you know, add it to your tools to spot relative strength. So you can see today Pengu's 23% up just today. Fartcoin always showing relative strength in recent months. You can come down to the weekly. You can see everything bullish on the weekly, apart from this token. And Leo, Pengu's up 123%, Sui's up 70%, Floki 33%, WAL 50%. So it's really good. Virtual 92% gives you a really good snapshot of the market to find relative strength and relative weakness. So if Bitcoin was going to have a retracement, it might be worth having a look at something that's weaker today or in the last hour. You know, or if you're wanting to find a long and you think Bitcoin's about to pump, you know, you'd want to find something with good relative strength. And you can come up to this and you can find what's been strong today, what's been weak today, and it's a really, really good tool. For those who've been in Sniper Squad for a while, obviously you'll know my Neo Vision as well, where you can just put multiple tokens on a chart and assess the relative strength that way. So, yes. So I will go through a few of these really quickly and just show what I'll be looking for. Now, I charted these on the daily because when Bitcoin pumped like that and I'd missed the entire move of Bitcoin due to catastrophic renovations, I thought, right, I need to zoom out and see what's actually going on with these tokens. So these can be taken for information purposes for yourselves. These can be taken spot positions or building into low leverage. And what I'd be looking at is retracements onto significant levels. If it's broke through, as a trader, I'm always asking myself, has it claimed a level or lost a level? So we can see this was a significant level. Polkadot has claimed a level, and not only has it claimed a level, it has broke this downtrend here. So now what I would want to see is the retest. This was actually a trade I was eyeing up yesterday, and it's brought to the downside. I'll get rid of them. So this is an optimal entry zone if Polkadot comes down and breaks under this, and then struggles to get back above, then that I'd get a trend line in there, and I'd be looking at shorting that, but I wouldn't necessarily look for massively lower levels. It'd be more of a scalp short. But yeah, so what I do, and this goes for any token, I take a fib tool from the bottom to the top of the move, and then I map out significant levels. You got 382, and people will be tired and bored of hearing me say this, because I tell everybody, because I really want people to understand these significant levels are significant. You know, the high probability reaction zones. You look at your 382, you look to the left of the chart. Has there been significant price action there in the past? And you can see here on Polkadot, yes, it has. This is for lower time frame trading, by the way. So there's the 382. Any pullback into that, I'd be looking for a reaction. And you could get a good scalp play out of this. So it might look something like this, by which time we could have a trend line in, you know, and the trend line might look something like that. When it breaks trend, you'd get your risk to reward tool in, enter on the break of trend, 15-minute candle close as confirmation, stop loss under the last low. And then for those who've been around a while, you'll know I take a fib tool from the top to the bottom of the move to find out where the 618 is, and that would be my final target TP. This is more for scalp plays. And I would also take profits at any significant levels looking to the left of the screen. Generally, I'll take 3. I'll put 3 TPs in, so that would be 1, because that's where it had a bounce to in the past and rejected. And also this level, that's the 382. You could have 4 TPs in here, because you could put one at the 50%, because that also correlates with price action at the left. So it might look something like that. So that might be one to watch out for. Track this downtrend, and let me see if I can make that look a bit more aesthetically pleasing to the eye. It might look something like that. But then also, so they're the major fib levels, but then also you've got your less major fib levels. With that, the major fib level, because it comes from the bottom, the major low to the major high. But these can be significant as well, you know, from anywhere where price expanded to the upside. So the beginning of the move. So you could take it from here, and this could be a short-term scalping, levels of interest. Say if you were trading on the 15-minute chart, 5-minute chart, then the lower time frame fib levels also come into play, and you can see that. Hold on a second. So let me get rid of that. Take a fib tool from the start of this move here to the top. You can see how price has had a little reaction at the 382. Nothing major, but you need to get market context into place. So I wouldn't just obviously long just at a fib level. I would track a downtrend, and I would be trading. There has to be multiple requirements. It has to be at horizontal support. has to have broken trend, has to be at a significant fib level. Sometimes you could incorporate other levels of confluence into that. One thing I would like to add as well onto this would be I use the anchored VWAP. So the anchored VWAP is under measurement tools. Let's have a look. Forecasting and measurement tools. And if you come down here, you've got your anchored VWAP. So what I like to do with these, and they do provide really good support and resistance, is I'll put it on, say, a 4-hour time frame, and I'll put an anchored VWAP from a major dump candle. So the major dump candle that we can see here, and there's quite a few. So I'll put them on the major dump candles until I get ones, and that's as much as I'll do. When I get ones which are, and I'll do one here, relevant to current price. So, and then I'd also put one from where this whole move started. So I'll take that from here. And then you can start to see we've got a couple of reasons why we would like to see Polkadot come down to this level. So we want the uptrend to be intact. So for the uptrend to be intact, we want that to be the low, higher high, slightly, higher low, higher high, higher low, and then that there is the major high. So you could argue that that was the higher high and that was the higher low, but that move is so expansive, more often than not that will retrace, and I would be happy if Polkadot came to here and bounced at this level, because that for me would be, that's the major high, that would still be a higher low on a wider time frame, and then you'd be looking at Polkadot coming from here to make its next higher high. So that's what I'd be looking for on Polkadot, and you can do this for any token. For any token, track the uptrend. So there's the uptrend. Track the uptrend. Look for its major downtrend level. See what level price is in now. So there's its range. That is the range that it's currently in. It lost it here. Like I say, deviations, brought back to the upside. Where's it going to pull back to? We've got a rising trend line in. The rising trend lines are not as significant as horizontal support. So I won't be overly concerned if it loses this rising trend line. However, it does correlate with the horizontal support anyway. And I'd be looking at the major 382, and the 50% there ties in with the rising trend line and horizontal support. Sorry, you'll be able to see that better now. Yes, so for me, the optimal trade, you might get a trade from this level to here, and it's important to understand what sort of trade we're taking. So if it bounces at the 382, that is not as highly probabilistic that it's going to go on to make a higher high than if it comes down to this level here, because I would expect it to come to here, and then what chart pattern would we have created then? That would be the head and shoulders pattern, and then it'd be going down to low levels. So what I would like to see is a healthy retracement, and coming down to these levels, and like I say, by then we would have a trend line in tracking this downtrend. You know, whether or not the trend line looks like that, you know, price could come and form a lower high, and look like it's starting a downtrend. And it might look something like that. And like I say, it might take days to play out. It might, who knows how long it'll take to play out. But we'll assess things. Right now, we're just looking at optimal entry zones. So for me, an optimal entry zone on Polkadot, I'll be looking at building a swing position based on it making a higher low in an uptrend, where we anticipate after the higher low it's going to go and make a higher high, which will then take us to the upper part of this range. Excuse me. So I want to capture this move in a swing trade with Polkadot, and I would like to compound into a few of these. So this is the trade that I'll be looking at taking. We've got an anchored VWAP here, an anchored VWAP here. Lower levels, if it comes down to this level, you know, it's broke under support again. That means that this is no longer a deviation, and it means that it's going to struggle to get back above there again. So we don't really want to see it lose this level here. So what I might do is, based on the martingale strategy that I told you earlier on, I might start adding into a position here and adding into a position here, and I might just cut the trade if it comes down to these levels here. But normally what would happen, it'd lose the rising trend line and then make a lower high, and that there would be where I'd probably cut the trade and maybe look at a scalp short. But as always, the markets are ever changing, and we'll look to that when the time comes. So that would be the optimal area on DOT. Now, I won't take as much time on all these because I've explained the theory extensively. So I'll just whip through these now. So again, there's its trading range. That's potentially the deviation. You could get a rising trend line in there. It's currently at there now. So this could be a shorting opportunity, potentially, a short scalp opportunity. Maybe a little bit later on, might play out for the Asia session. But if you were wanting to scalp trade this, you'd have trend line in there, and you'd be expecting price to have a reaction at this level. Potentially, if it breaks trend there and then looks like it's succeeding in the retest, then you could play it to here. So that would be a scalp trade. But you're always just assessing. You're tracking uptrends and then you're tracking downtrends. Really simple stuff. Open up any chart, track the uptrend, track the downtrend. Is it still holding its uptrend? Has it lost its uptrend? If it's lost its uptrend, then I'd be looking at, if it's lost its uptrend, I'd be looking at the retest, and I'd be looking at a short based on horizontal resistance and other things. So it's currently at its rising uptrend. I'll just quickly add in the anchored VWAP, and then I am going to move on to the TA requests that people have asked me. So you can see those anchored VWAPs from the major high here where it lost support and dumped, and the major low here. You can see there's two nice levels there where we could expect Sonic to maybe reject from or find support. Right, so let us have a look here really quickly. Solana. So Aline wants Sui and Solana. We'll have a look at Solana. You have to excuse my previous TA here on Solana. So what you can see, what constitutes a strong trend line? 3 touches. So sometimes a trend line's not as clear cut as other trend lines. Sometimes a trend line can be perfect, it can be textbook, and other times it isn't. Sometimes you need pattern recognition skills to be able to see the trend line. So you can see here that it held it once, held it twice, lost it, then held it, rejected off it, rejected off it, rejected off it, retested it, held it, touched it, touched it, touched it, touched it. That's a strong trend line. However, when you open your chart, let me get rid of that trend line for now. When you open your chart, you wouldn't naturally. I know when I first started trading, I thought, well, I can't get a proper trend line in there because, you know, it's a bit messy. But with experience, you start to realize that it's the best fit. So you can see quite clearly how many times it's touched that trend line there. You know, when I've just gone through it. So that for me is the trend line to watch. We're just tracking up trends and tracking down trends. Let me get rid of this. So when we're looking at level to levels, when we're as a trader, I'll repeat it time and time again, we're constantly asking ourselves, have I gained a level or have I lost a level? Has Solana gained a level or has it lost a level? We're also watching out for deviations where, you know, there's a little bit of trickery. So you can see deviation. You can see a deviation here, yeah, where it's deviated under the range. Everyone will have got bearish here. Imagine, you need to get your heads into the sentiment of the market. Everyone doing standard technical analysis will be like, if it's bounced here, they're expecting a higher low. It's bounced here. And then when you look at it, let me just get rid of all these tokens on the side. When you look at it, traders come, loads of people will have longed. Their stop losses will have been here. Loads of traders' stop losses there. Then these all longed, their stop losses would have been there. Then they longed, their stop losses will be there. And quite often, what happens is, it doesn't bounce exactly where you expect it to bounce. It'll come, take out those stop losses, and finally, those stop losses. However, if we replay this back, which I will do just to show you the sentiment of the market, people will have been trading this and they will have thought, right, if Solana loses this level, I'm shorting, because then they'll have expected it to come down to these levels. And what will have happened, it lost the level, people will have been shorting, price grabs their liquidity, traps all of the late shorters, and then price plays out and moves away, liquidates all of these shorters, and then it's up and away. So we need to watch out for these deviations. I'm just trying to squeeze as much education in as I go, because these are really important deviations. Let me exit the replay tool and we'll come to find Solana's levels now. So, has it gained a level or lost a level? It's gained a level. We can clearly see that. It's reclaimed here. It's broke this neckline here, and it's broken into this range, which is why I've got this here, because that is a theoretical long position. Like I said, I won't be taking any swing trades today, but we start to create a bit of a plan when we start tracking trends and tracking down trends, tracking up trends. So basically, really simply, for me, I want to be getting in on Solana when, let me come on to the standard stochastic RSI. So you can see the 4-hour stochastic is showing it's reset, turning to the upside. However, the daily is showing it's at the top and might want to come down. Now, for me, building swing positions, and by the way, this is going to be a golden nugget. Sorry, I can just see someone's message there. This is going to be a golden nugget for you spot traders. If you're wanting to DCA into positions, the best time you could DCA is when there's been a significant period of redness, when there's been a significant bearish phase, and when the stochastic RSI is reset on the daily. You know, when it's completely reset. And you could literally buy positions, and 9 times out of 10 this would be successful. Stochastic RSI reset on the daily time frame. You start loading up into positions. You can DCA in. You could DCA in, meaning you buy in 5 parts. You could, you know, so here you can see Solana's stochastic RSI came. I like to start doing this when it's below 10. So here's the level here, look. So it only came below 10 around here. So I would start DCAing into positions once this stochastic RSI on the daily comes down to 10, which means I'd have been buying a bit here, and then I would be like, right, if it comes lower, I'll buy a bit more. I'll buy a bit more, because eventually the stochastic RSI turns to the upside, and then you can start DCAing out of your spot position. And like I say, 9 times out of 10, this is a successful way of DCAing in. If you look back historically, if you did that, you'd be DCAing around here, and then you'd be DCAing out around here. Again, you'd be DCAing in around here, look. You'd be DCAing out around the highs. So if you're ever thinking of, oh, is it a good time to buy now? Should I buy? Is it a good time? I only buy on retracements when stochastic RSIs are reset significantly. I wouldn't want to be buying, and you know, I wouldn't want to be buying spot positions after something's ran. Unless Bitcoin breaks 95 and then pulls back and has a good few days of, you know, retracements, a few days of redness, get everyone scared again, get everyone saying things like, oh, there's no bull market, we're going lower. I like to counter trade sentiment as well. So Solana, currently, have we gained a level or lost a level? We've gained a level. So for me, this, if we were looking at scalp trades, and I think, Eileen, you said spot positions. Right. So Eileen wanted to know about spot. Because if I was wanting to take a trade of this on a lower time frame, all I do is I track the downtrend there. You can see rejected, rejected, rejected. As soon as it breaks that, you could enter into a position, stop loss under the last low there, and enter 50% on the break, 50% on the retest, and then as it starts to make a higher high and a higher low, you can move your stop loss to break even or underneath the last low, and then it's a risk-free trade. So for spot, Eileen, what I would be doing, I would be waiting for the stochastic RSI on the daily to come down to lower levels. That's what I'd be waiting for. Whether or not, I don't even care if that's higher. I don't even care if I'm buying at slightly higher. Or you can come up with a DCA strategy where you're buying in parts, because ultimately we never know. You know, I mean, stranger things have happened. I mean, look at this here. Look at that significant period of bullishness. How long was that over? That was over 18 days. Solana did 70%. Same as what Sui's just done, but Sui did it faster. So, you know, there's nothing to say that might happen. So sometimes it's best to get some skin in the game rather than wait for a retracement when it comes to spot, because you never know. However, it's worth pointing out there'd been there'd probably been a week of a retracement before that move. That's what I want to see. A retracement. Before every significant move, there's usually a decent retracement. You can see there. You know, even before every bounce, you know, technically, the retracements are where you get your best entries for the bounces. You can obviously do continuation plays for scalping and whatnot, but what I would like to see, Eileen, would be the stochastic RSI on the daily come and reset. On the 12-hour, I might start nibbling here. I'd probably come up with a plan. Say if I wanted to invest $1,000 into Solana, I might think, right, I'm going to invest $250 here. And then if price comes down to this level, I'm going to invest $400. So that would be $650 in. No, sorry. Yes, I'd invest $250 here. I'd maybe invest $300 here. And that would leave $450, which I would then invest here. So what that would do, $250 here, $300 there, and then $450 here. What that would do, it would average your entry so that your entry would be around here. The problem is, if I put all of my $1,000 in here, yes, and then price comes down to here, I have just lost. You don't lose until you sell with spot positions, but I will be down. I will be down to $750. Yeah, so I'll have lost 25%. Well, not lost. I will be down 25%. Whereas if I go in with $250 here, and then add $350 here, and then add the rest in here, my average entry would be here, which means I would only be 10% down as opposed to 25% down. And when it does bounce, I'll be in profits faster. So that would be my plan for Solana. And then if it does bounce from here, you can start adding in on the next retracements. So, you know, you could have a high there and that low there. You could start adding there. And if you're trading on an exchange that allows you to put in a stop loss on your spot positions, like I know some do, I know Binance do, I think Blowfin does, you know, allows a trading facility, you could place your own stop loss in, and as you DCA in higher and higher, you can just move your stop loss up, and you can just chase price up. So what I would say, Aline, Solana has gained a level. I would potentially, only you know, in fact, we've got a one-to-one session tomorrow, so we can discuss this further then tomorrow, but we can, you can adopt a DCA strategy where you're taking a bit, but you need to map out your significant levels to create a strategy, to create a plan on, on where you're going to DCA in, because I wouldn't want to be putting all my money in one shot after it's had a significant rally like that. And if you look at it objectively, it's just gone up. So there hasn't been a significant retracement. For people who are more conservative and want to wait for a pullback, this would be a level I would look for. For people who are traders, I would wait for a loss of that level and then short on the retest to this level, and vice versa. When it comes down to this level, trend line in, and you can long to higher levels. So, Sui, so to answer your question in short, Aline, if I was to enter spot, I would DCA maybe some here if you believe it might not come down. I would if you're not exposed to Solana and you want some exposure, I would maybe DCA some here, some here, some here, and and I would increase the position size that I enter as it comes lower down. If we look at Sui, the same applies for me. If I had no exposure to Sui, and you think there's a chance it might continue to run higher, you know, I would maybe I'd buy $200 here, add $300 there, and this is assuming that we believe the low is in, by the way, and then I would maybe add $400 here, and you know, so these would be DCA levels that I would have. I would DCA here, here, and here, and again, if it breaks to the upside, then you look to the left, and you're looking at resistance levels on the left. So you'd be looking, for some reason, a rectangle's not working, hold on. You'd be looking at, I'd always add on a retest. So Sui is currently at resistance. I would anticipate it's going to come down to this level. But there is a chance, if Bitcoin gets bullish in the next couple of days and people jump in, you know, it could pump to the upside. But I would always add, rather than adding here at resistance, I would rather add after it's pumped up and then come down on the retest. I would rather be buying on support. If you're buying here, you know, you're at an instant danger of potentially being 10% down in the coming days, 13% down. Whereas if it pumps to the upside there like that and then comes on to support, you're still getting it at the same price as you would here, only you're buying it with more conviction because it's retesting support. So that's what I would do. Aline, somebody else said Sui for leverage. That was Ryan. Right. So for leverage trading, I come in on the 4-hour time frame and I have a look. Is there an uptrend which it's upholding? Whenever you get an uptrend that's been that steep, it rarely lasts. And it's not going to hold it over the long haul at that gradient. Do you know what I mean? Like, you wouldn't see price just continue up at that gradient, you know, indefinitely. It's always going to lose steam at some point. That doesn't mean that it's, you know, it's going to come and retrace and dump. But what it does mean, it's going to lose momentum, potentially go sideways, maybe form a bull flag. So I track them for scalp shorts, but you have to know kind of what sort of trade you're entering. When it's a gradient of a trend line like that, it's much less reliable than if it's closer to 45 degrees. If it loses something like that, usually that's a proper loss of trend. So there's a very good chance here what we could see with Sui. You know, it could come down, bounce from this level. This level would be the 200 PV moving average on the daily. It would also be a retest of its previous level, and you could have a 15% move to the upside on the table. Let me just get rid of all these squiggles, just to clean up the chart a little bit. So what I do, Ryan, as always, I map out the range levels, the significant horizontal resistances and horizontal support. Then I'll get the fib tool, I'll take it from the bottom right to the top, and I'll be looking at 382. Now we can see the 382 there, significant level. Do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to open a fresh Sui chart, because we'll do this with a clean chart just for simplicity. So let's have a look at this. We'll get rid of these. Right. So fib tool from the bottom of where the move started. You can also, if there's a deeper retracement, you can start it right from the low, the fib tool. So we look to the left of the chart. Does the fib level correspond with significant horizontal support? Yes, it does. Does the 618? Yes, it does. And also the 786 does. So, and then because it's been so bullish, I would add the 236 on there as well. So now we've got our levels. Does the 236 correspond with significant horizontal support or resistance? Yes, it does. So we've got these levels now, and I'm going to remove these. If I was leverage trading, I use the daily moving averages to give me a good gauge on you know, the entirety of the market overview. So obviously they're set to the daily for me. If I was trading on lower time frames, I would come onto the moving average ribbon and I would change that to chart. So basically this is now the moving average of the chart. So I can see now on a 4-hour time frame, this here is the 50 period moving average. So this 382 level for me, Ryan, is significant. But depends really on what time frame you trade on, because I'll be trading leverage, but I'll also be waiting for it to potentially come down to these lower levels here, which it may not do. But if I was trading on a, say, 15-minute time frame, 10-minute time frame, 5-minute time frame, then it'd look very, very different, you see. But on a lower time frame, if I come down to the 15-minute, you'll see what I mean. So the moving averages were all in a bullish formation, and now it's coming choppy consolidation. So what I tend to do on the lower time frames is I will map out the significant levels just as I would do on the higher time frames. I'll be like, right, there's a significant level. Also, what we've got here is a significant order block. You see that cluster of orders, cluster of candles before an expansive move. And then I would also map out significant resistance levels. So this level here is significant. So you could pretty much trade it within this range on the lower time frames. And also what we've got is a rising trend line here, which it's currently kind of clinging to. So we're starting to build a little bit of a picture. So I would be looking at either it coming up here and potentially shorting down to this level. Reason being is because more recent price action is showing that this here is a significant level. Do you see? Because, let me expand it so you can see. We've got like a giant head and shoulders. It's like there's a shoulder, there's a head, there's the other shoulder, and it looks like it's losing that trend line now. So I wouldn't short this necessarily now, because I like to short when the stochastic RSI on a 15-minute is at the top turning over. But if it does break to the underside, with Sui being so bullish, I would rather get a scalp long from around this level here. So I would track a trend line in like that. And as long as, can you see how it's rejected from there? As long as it's underneath that, the downtrend is still in play on this lower time frame. So what I would rather do is wait for it to come to this order block here, and by then price might be around here, and I would look at the breaker trend and then potentially play it to this level. Alternatively, what may happen is it breaks down here but then comes into here, which will then bring the stochastic RSI up a bit, and then you would have hidden bearish divergence, and you could potentially short from in here. So while it's holding that little rising trend line, I wouldn't trade. There's a saying which is don't diddle in the middle. I like to trade, level to level, really. Significant resistance to significant support. So there's your significant support, there's your significant resistance. So I would rather, in an ideal world, I would rather see price come and break this, and if it does, that could be your scalp long there. And this is for everyone. That could be your scalp long, playing it back to these wicks here, and your stop loss just under your last low. That's a 4-to-1 trade, which would be valid. However, you would want 50% on the break of trend and then 50% on the retest, because if it doesn't succeed in the retest, you're only getting stopped out with 50% of your position. Rather than entering a full position, your stop loss could be something like there. That's a 3-to-1 trade. You always want your trades to be 3-to-1. So that could be a scalp long for you to watch out for. However, if it loses this level, loses that rising trend line, and then it might come and wick back here, that could be your short. A retest of this order block here, and then your short would look something like this. Your stop loss under the last sort of wick high, and your TP down at this order block here, around here. So there's the two scalp sort of trades I'd be looking at taking on SUI, depending on what it does moving forward. If once this has played out and it comes to the upside, I would be watching very carefully for it to wick up here, maybe track the trend line. So price would be, let me just get rid of them a sec so it can be a bit clearer. If there's a trend line in there and price is holding, wicks above, takes out the stop losses from this level, then comes back under and breaks trend, then I would be shorting, and it'd be a bigger short to that level, because there's a lot of liquidity built up here. So when you see liquidity taken, all those stops taken, and then it rejects, loses its short-term trend, I would enter a trade there, and it would look like stop above the last high. And although that would be my TP, I would also be mindful that it's just taken out major liquidity, and that could potentially play lower down. So there could be a bigger trade there. So if anyone's watching this, you know, obviously this is on YouTube, you better pause it, look back, and you'll be able to see what's what, and create your own little trade plans based on. So that could be three plays there on SUI, depending whether or not it loses this rising trend line or breaks that downtrend. So, and also, if it doesn't take out liquidity from here first, let me get rid of that. And if this plays out, let me get rid of that long. If it comes here and this trade plays out, I would then be taking the trade from, I'd be tracking the trend line down here again, and I would be playing stop loss on this low. Also, by the way, I'd be watching out for a deviation down here to take out them stops, and then a reclaim, and then I would be playing it to that high. Remember, it's like liquidity to liquidity. It's like liquidity games. So if major liquidity gets taken, we can expect a bigger move to the downside. If major liquidity gets taken from the bottom and it deviates, we can expect a bigger move to the upside. And potentially then that could be a trade which you could hold on to. You know, if you're bullish on SUI and you think the best is yet to come moving forward in these coming weeks. Also, one thing that is worth pointing out with the stochastic RSI here, you can see there's like a bit of a downtrend forming. So if it did break this, and the stochastic RSI, because the downtrends work on the stochastic RSI as well, usually you'd get a significant move if that breaks out like that. So it's just something for you to look out for, Ryan. Yes. So I think it was Ryan that asked for SUI short-term TA, was it? Let me know in the comments, Ryan, if that's kind of what you were looking for, if that's the time frames that you were looking at. In short, if I was to simplify this, I would want a long from this level or this level, major levels on a scalp time frame, or you can see it's already breaking out, look. So, and it's not messing about either. So, and the stochastic RSI is currently breaking out as well. So what you could do here, it could be a scalp trade for everybody. You want to see SUI come up and then retest on this rising trend, but it might not come right back to the rising trend, and I'll show you what I mean. You know, I'm going to get rid of all this. So what might happen, it might just come to this cluster here, and you would want to see it stay broken out. By the way, I wouldn't have entered this now, but you want to see it stayed broken out, basically get acceptance above here, and then come it depends where this sort of stops. So if it comes up here, you might just get something like that before it comes up here. I would want to be getting in on this retest. But that would be the better trade. So it's popping its head out now, but you want to wait for a 15-minute candle closure, because that could easily just become another wick. You know, it can get pushed down here. That could be its little fake out, and then it might come down, and then your short might be in there. So let me know, Ryan, that time frame's kind of what you were looking at. I'm just going to get rid of them. But ultimately, for me, you just mark out your significant levels, no matter what time frame you're on. Where's your significant resistance? Clearly there. That was a deviation above the range. Where's your significant support? There's your significant support. Therefore, the most optimal areas to take shorts from would be anywhere from up here. If price gets above and comes under, that would be the play. If price wicks below and gets back over, then that would be the play. If price comes under and struggles to get back above, then that would be the play. And if then that happens, then you'd be looking at it coming down to its more significant support levels, where you could build stronger positions. Stronger positions meaning positions with more conviction. So, I mean, it's going to be very doubtful if we're going to get my optimal target, which was $2.50. I think that's very optimistic. It's been that bullish. You know, a healthy retracement onto the 382 would probably be what I'd be looking for. So we'll have a look where that is. So there you can see 618, 382 directly correlates with significant support and resistance. So that there would be somewhere I'd be taking trades with some conviction that that could be the next wave of the move. If it comes down to the 618, then I'd be building some serious spot positions as well, and low leverage swing trades to compound in. So I'm glad that was all right for you, Ryan. I'm going to have to move swiftly on, and then I'm going to have to get some tea very soon. So there's a few other tokens. Let's have a little whip through them. But I hope, I don't just want to give TA and go, oh, there's the levels, there's the level, there's the levels, there's your long to short, your long risk to reward. You know, there's your trade. I kind of like want to educate as I go, so people can learn about these tools. You know, like the anchored VWAP. You know, if we take that from the major low and then the major high, you know, you start to get an idea of where there's support and resistance. If you take, you know, you could do that from here on the lower time frame. So there's the anchored VWAP on a lower time frame, and you can start to see that there's some, you know, there's some support coming into play now, which it's actually been hugging really well, which is an excellent demonstration of the power of the anchored VWAP. Can you see? So all I did was took an anchored VWAP from the bottom of the move, you know, and price is hugging it before having a little pop to the upside. And same vice versa, you know, you take it from the top of the move to the bottom of the move. Yeah, so I kind of want to try and help people understand the intricacies of all of these little tools. On the higher time frame, the VRVP is very useful because it shows you a significant horizontal support and resistance. Even on the lower time frame it does, because basically the VR stands for visible range. So any price action you've got on your screen, this will show you where there's been the most transactions at any given price. So you can clearly see now that this area is the resistance area for it to get through. That white line is the point of control, meaning that is the area that's had the most transactions. So that's a good tool to use as well. The moving averages, the posturing of, we've gone through quite a lot in this stream, to be honest. The posturing of moving averages, the significance of the moving averages on the daily, how you change them onto the lower time frames, the VRVP, anchored VWAPs, Fibonacci levels, support and resistance, the trend lines, tracking uptrends, tracking downtrends. So there's been quite a lot that we've covered. I'm just going to get through. So I can see Dev21 was asking, what does one call and three calls mean? I'm assuming that you are talking about the one-to-one mentorship. If you are, three calls and one calls mean anyone who wants to have one-to-one mentorship with me, for me to take, basically see where you're at with your trading, no matter how advanced or how novice. If you want some calls, it would take as much time as we need to basically evaluate where you're at in your trading style, where you're at with your trading development, how successful you are. It really doesn't matter how advanced you are or how novice you are. Like I said, if you're winning 70 out of 100 trades, let's see why you're losing those 30 trades. You know, what are you doing better? What could you do better? What's your hit rate? If it's 7 out of 10 trades, then why aren't you entering with 3 times more than you are now? Because you would then treble your profitability. You know, it's like no matter how advanced someone is, there's always room for improvement. There's always room for improvement for everybody. So them one calls and the free calls, basically, I think that you're on about the introductory prices. If you want an individual call, then that costs so much. And if you want 3 calls, you get 3 calls, but you also get a bonus call for free. So that's what the 1 and 3 calls mean, if that's what you're on about, Dev21. But yeah, I cannot emphasize enough how having mentorship, you know, and me having a mentor absolutely revolutionized my trading, because I didn't know the mistakes I was making, and that level of accountability that I had. You know, he asked me to do a trading journal. He asked me to take screenshots of my trades. He asked me to send them to him. Even just that accountability. I stopped entering trades on emotion because I'm like, oh God, my mentor's going to tell me that I shouldn't have taken this trade. So I started to develop more heightened awareness of the risk I was taking on and of myself. Because ultimately, as I've told you, once you start understanding, you know, the intricacies of the markets, then it's me versus me. It's you versus you. You know, and it's like I need to identify what I can do better, where I can improve, you know, what I can do. Where are my flaws? Where are my weaknesses? How do I eradicate my weaknesses? How do I build on my strengths? And I couldn't have done that without a mentor. So anyone who is interested in one-to-one mentorship, you know, send me a message after this, and we'll talk about it more and talk about maybe how it could benefit you and where you're at with your trading style and what you want from it. So that's kind of what that's about. B&B for Yang. I swear I am so sorry if I pronounce your name wrong. It's either Yini or Yine, but I am from England, and that's how I read it. Potentially you're not from England and it would be read something totally different, so I hope I haven't offended you. However, let's have a little quick look at B&B. And so, Bitcoin pairs. Somebody remind me. Next time we do a stream, I will also include Bitcoin pairs, because that is incorporated into when I make investments, spot trading. I always check the Bitcoin pairs, because I don't want to be buying something that's weak against Bitcoin. So BNB USDT. Let's have a little look. Right. And the time frame, 4-hour leverage. Right. So let's have a look at it on the 4-hour. Let's get rid of, have we got any drawings? No drawings. Have we got, let's get rid of the moving averages a minute. Moving averages. So really, really quickly. First things first, you can see, remember when I said it's never straightforward and clean cut, and you need pattern recognition. There's a downtrend here, which it's actually deviated above. So and it's currently at that resistance line now. And remember what I said, significant horizontal and support levels, 4-hour leverage. I'd be looking at that as a significant level. And I could take that right back and show you why that's a significant level. You know, once price claimed it, that's the upper part of the range. Let me zoom out on the daily, get a better perspective. So, significant level. Oh, sometimes this rectangle isn't working. Significant level. Significant level. And then we've got another significant level here. So, they're the significant levels. And that's on the daily time frame. I mean, obviously, you could pop another one in, but the reason I didn't is because this is less relevant. We're looking at where's price action at right now. So, 4 hour leverage, have we gained or lost a level? We're currently in the middle of no man's land in between 2 levels. We've got this downtrend that I would like to see it break before I'd be kind of bullish. You can see 1 touch, 2 touches, wicked above it, fake out, came up, 3 touches. So what I'd like to see for BNB, first and foremost, if I was looking at longing, I would want to be, I would be longing, wanting to long on this breaker trend, wherever that may be. Now that might be here. Sorry, my trading view's playing up. That might be here. Break a trend, play it to that level, maybe that up to there like that, or it could reject from there. Remember, you're always waiting. And when it comes to resistance, always be taking profits, taking something off the table. So when it comes to this level, I'd be taking profits. If it broke through and then retested, I would add my profits and some more back in, because now it's opened up a new trading level. You know, just to have a look, each level here looks like it's about 15%. So that's 12%. And if it lost that level, you know, you're looking at potentially 8 to 10% to the downside. If you wanted to take more scalpy trades, what I would do, I would be looking at getting my fib tool from this most recent bottom to the high. I'll be looking at where's the 382, and we can see it directly correlates with this horizontal support level here. In actual fact, that could be a really good play for BNB. And then I'd also be looking at where's the 618. Does that correlate with horizontal support? Yes, it does. In fact, there's this little order block here. So I'd also be putting in that. So that's a significant level. So I'm looking at, I'm wanting to long this. Well, this is based on my perception of the market, and I believe Bitcoin's going to have a most likely course of action is Bitcoin pulls back and makes a higher low. Therefore, I want to be catching altcoins on a higher low. So take that into consideration. Understand that when I'm telling you that this would be the trade I would take, that is based on the bias that I have already got, based on my thesis that the recent break of market structure and change of character is going to, it's made a higher high, and I want to be waiting till it makes its next higher low. That's my thesis. My thesis is Bitcoin is going to go on to make a higher low. Now, based on that thesis, I will be looking at all altcoins, thinking, when Bitcoin makes its next higher low, where will this altcoin's higher low be? So that is the thesis, and that is my plan. But then on all tokens, it's like if it hasn't broke its downtrend, it's still in a downtrend. So I would want to see it break a downtrend first. However, based on where Bitcoin's at right now, it's like, where's the next higher low going to be? And I'll be looking at these levels here. The 618, the 382. So I would be looking at price coming down into this level of 382, $582, and then the 618, 550, 58 is that? 558. So let's have a look. 558, yeah. So they would be, if you believe BNB super bullish, you know, then you've got your 236 here. However, I'd be less skeptical. I'd be more skeptical that it's going to bounce here. I would be personally, on a 4-hour time frame with leverage, I would be looking at potentially building into a position around here. You can have a little nibble, maybe enter a third of your position here. Let me just get rid of that. Maybe enter a third of your position here. And then if it makes a double bottom or breaks that trend, you could add another third of your position, stop loss under here. And then by then you could get another trend line in here. And when it breaks that and breaks that high there, you can add your other third in. That would be a successful retest. And then you can move your stop loss up underneath the last low. And you could be playing that range there, which would probably be about 8 or 9%. However, it's also worth noting, I mean, these are all slightly higher and it's compressing, isn't it? Because there's lots of different ways to chart things. I mean, it's come up a long way and it's consolidating, so I wouldn't be expecting major bullish moves unless Bitcoin made. If Bitcoin makes the bullish move, then we could probably expect BNB to make the bullish move as well. So on the daily stochastic RSI, the same applies even with low leverage trades. I would like to see that reset. However, if we're trading the 4-hour time frame, this is kind of what we're looking at. So I've given you all the level stuff. Let me remove all that. If I was looking at just trading this now with a naked chart, I'd be mapping out rejection zones. Let's have a look at stochastic RSI. Stochastic RSI is at the bottom, telling me that there's potentially a move to the upside coming for BNB. So you could be tracking that, and you could also be tracking that. And basically, you could be entering a tiny bit of a position here now based on the 4-hour stochastic RSI, and with a very tight stop loss. Bearing in mind, I wouldn't do this with it being a Sunday, and with what I know about where Bitcoin's at right now, I wouldn't be doing this. But this is a trade opportunity, and if the market gets bullish from here, or if the fake move is to the upside, you've got your significant. It was significant resistance, pumped through, held it as support, holding it as support again now. So structurally, if we're just forgetting about Bitcoin and forgetting about it being a Sunday, the stochastic RSI is at the bottom. It's held this rising trend line. It's on horizontal support, and you know it could be you could enter 50% of your position here, but I'd come down on the 15-minute time frame to finesse my entry. We've got a bullish engulfing candle on the 15 minutes. I don't tend to trust these as much on the 15 minutes because quite often, the same thing that I was saying before about Bitcoin on the weekly, quite often these will just retrace. But obviously there's a chance it may not. We've also got this trend line, which it looks like it's just broke. So what I would look at here, if you were wanting to take a trade, even on the 4-hourly, you could enter a tiny bit of a position here. And then I would be looking at some sort of retest into this box and I'd have my stop loss quite tight. Because if this is going to be a successful retest, then it's not going to come down to this level. And that's leverage. So I probably have, if I was to take a trade here on BNB, I would be looking at this rectangular green box being my entry zone, because that would fill the imbalance of this candle. If I was thinking that this was maybe going to go up quickly now, I might even just get a tiny bit in now. 30% of my position, I might enter here. Sorry, hold on. Might enter 30% of my position here, and then the rest of my position in here. So that might be the other. I might enter 30% there, and then I might enter 35% there if price comes back down to there. And so then my average entry would be here, this middle line. So my trade would look like this. Trading view's playing up, sorry. My trade would look like this. And what I would be anticipating would be that it's not going to come below this box, because then that would be an unsuccessful retest. And this, now we know that this is a bigger time frame trend line on the 4 hour here. We could be anticipating with the 4 hour stochastic RSI at the bottom, it stands to reason we can expect a significant sort of move. Whether or not the momentum, the bulls would have the momentum to break this, until it breaks that high there and holds it, there's no reason to be super bullish about BNB. Until then, it would pretty much just be scalp plays. But we could be taking it to the next high, you know, where there's my mouse is now playing up as well. Fantastic. So that would probably be the trade that I'd look at taking if I was basing it on the 4 hour time frame. Going down to the 15 minute to finesse my entry. By the way, that's a bearish candlestick. That's a spinning top on the 15 minute. So more often than not, you could expect, obviously it's less significant on the 15 minutes than it is on the hourly or the 4 hourly or the daily. But usually when that candle's there, you can expect that to be the next move. So that could be a retest of that downtrend that it's broken. And this DCA strategy could potentially be quite a good one. I probably would have my stop loss a little bit lower down, because you want to accommodate any of the little wicks and whatnot. But that would probably be the trade that I would look at taking. Bearing in mind, if it breaks this 4 hour downtrend, then this could be what you'd expect to see. If it plays out to the upside, you would want to see that, because you want to see it get higher than this level. Yeah? Once it gets higher than this level, the uptrend has started. And then you would be able to get a trend line in, and then you would want to see it break that trend line, hold the rising trend line, retest this long downtrend, and then you could be playing it to this level. So I'd be taking profits once it got to that level. That's a significant level. That's a significant resistance level. I would be TPing there, but I'd also probably leave 25% in, just in case the market does get bullish and it starts to hold that, because you want to protect your entry. If our entry's down here, that's a great entry to have if price ends up breaking to the upside here and holding that. So I'd always leave a little 25% to run. So that would be the trade that I'd potentially look at taking on BNB. Until then, what I would say to you is most tokens range most of the time. And currently, it is in this range here. And honestly, 7 or 8 times out of 10, even if you just played these ranges, there's your resistance, there's your support, there's a resistance, there's your support, there's your resistance. Basically, if it comes down to this level, you could enter a leverage trade, low leverage, playing it to this level. And more often than not, even if you just played those levels, you'd be right most of the time, just watching out for those deviations. So that would be the leverage trade that I would look to take. I would take into consideration the stochastic RSI on the 4 hour, which is currently looking really good. And that would be, well, I think I've covered all that. So yes, that will have to do for this stream. I think I've covered everybody's token requests. My third screen has now gone off, so I can't even see if there's any more token requests or anything. But if I was zooming out on BNB, like I said, that downtrend, I'd be looking at that downtrend being broken and I would also be watching that uptrend for a potential short. Whichever one of those breaks first, you're going to have a trade in that direction. So if it breaks to the downside, if it breaks to the downside, for some reason, my trading view is not playing ball. If it breaks to the downside like that, then that would be a short for me down to lower levels here. If it broke to the upside, bearing in mind it'd have to break this high and those highs, then that for me would be a long to higher levels, you know, potentially higher levels. I'll tell you something I saw earlier on, which just really quickly, Gala, looking on a wider time frame. Let's have a look at Gala on a wider time frame. This was a trade that I was looking at for Gala, because if we zoom out on a wider time frame, it's looking like it's ready. Let me put it on daily. Look at this. So let me just hide these. Every time it's ever come down to this level, it puts in God candles or extremely expansive moves. And look where it's at now. It's deviated below, and now it looks like it's reclaimed it. Now this for me may well be an absolute super trade to start building into on low leverage and spot. Let me turn my drawings back on. And at the very least, we could be looking at a 60% move for Gala if gaming starts to have a run. So I'll be watching this, and I suggest everybody else does as well. It's broke this significant downtrend, as have many tokens. This rising trend line here, the 382, the 50%, horizontal retest, this would be an area that I'll be interested in getting into a trade. So track any downtrend. I'll keep people posted in Sniper Squad. If you're not already in Sniper Squad and you're watching this on YouTube, I'll post a link underneath. It's a free trading group that we've got. We do have paid services within that, or I do, where you can have one-to-one mentorship. You can have live Zoom sessions regularly throughout the week, doing just what we've done today, market analysis, looking at where potential trades might be, token requests, things like that. You know, we've got lots of stuff going on in there, but more importantly, there's educational content. I'll be posting a lot of educational content in there, doing technical analysis tutorials and trade ideas and stuff like that. So you've got nothing to lose and everything to gain. I'll post a link of Sniper Squad bot. You click on the link, there's some steps to fulfill. You just need to follow those steps, free access to the group. Come and join us in Sniper Squad. And then you can hear more about the exclusive services and the live Zoom sessions, and there'll be lots more stuff like this. And together as a community, we'll be trading, we'll be taking, we've actually already started, but we haven't really got it going because there's a few kinks to iron out. We'll be doing trading challenges together where we'll try and get funded by prop firms. And then there's also spot challenges, compound challenges. There's all sorts going to be going on in there moving forward. So come and join us, join the family, and we look forward to hopefully seeing you in there and seeing you on the Zoom sessions. And on a personal level, I look forward to hopefully working with many of you as I possibly can on a one-to-one to help take your trading to the next level and propel you to the next level of success. Like I said before, identifying your flaws, trying to eradicate them, identifying your strengths, try to build on them, and slowly but surely, 1% at a time, 1% at a time, we can improve and improve and improve our success rate and our profitability. So my other screen's gone off, so I don't know if anyone's messaging or not. I do apologise about all the technological issues. I've just moved into this house recently, and all sorts has been going on, and it's not all still resolved to my satisfaction, but I'll keep chipping away. We live to fight another day. That's another stream done. I'm going to go and get something to eat. And I will jump online again at the next available opportunity, which will more than likely probably be tomorrow now. So if anyone does have any token requests, all eyes on Bitcoin. Sunday evening, watch out for that false move, week beginning. Ethereum, you know, there could potentially be a good trade on Ethereum. You know, whether it pops through here, holds, and then you've got a trade here, or whether it drops underneath and struggles to get, and you get on the retest. I'm personally holding out Didn't have time for any scalping today, I'm afraid. That was due to all the technological problems. We'll do that another day. Might actually do that tomorrow. We'll see what happens. Because it's Monday, rather than wait for the Monday range to form, let's scalp trade the Monday range. So that's what we'll do. I'll jump online tomorrow. I hope to see as many of you as possible, and I will post the information in Sniper Squad. So come and jump on board, get involved. I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow, and I'll post any charts into Sniper Squad so everyone can see them. But there's no real updates in terms of, I'm just waiting on all these pullbacks as highlighted. We're just waiting for pullbacks onto these range, and it's all eyes on Bitcoin. So keep watching for updates, and I will update you all accordingly. Thank you for watching. I hope you all enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Have a wonderful evening, have a wonderful morning, have a wonderful day wherever you are in the world, and stay tuned. Subscribe to my YouTube channel because I might just randomly go live. I may or may not have a little surprise in store for my YouTube subscribers. So that might be something in the pipeline that you might be worth getting exciting about. So yes, subscribe, turn on the alarm, the alerts, and like this video and leave a comment if you've taken anything from it. And I look forward to seeing you all again very, very soon. Much love.